So our reading comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 21, verses 1 through 11. When they had come near Jerusalem and had reached Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go into the village ahead of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, just say this: 'The Lord needs them,' and he will send them immediately." This took place to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet, saying, "Tell the daughter of Zion, look, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey, and on a colt, the foal of a donkey." The disciple went and did as Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put their cloaks on them, and he sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, and others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and that followed were shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest heaven!" When he entered Jerusalem, the whole city was in turmoil, asking, "Who is this?" The crowds were saying, "This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth in Galilee."
All right, so we'll get to that. But I want to begin by saying that many Sundays, after I leave you here, including this Sunday, I head to Adams Morgan, a neighborhood in Washington, D.C., to play games. Table is full of friends eating delicious food and laughing and planning and shouting in triumph and despair as we play games like Ticket to Ride and Azul and Codenames, and occasionally a throwback like Clue or Yahtzee. My gaming life started as soon as I was able to hold more than one card in my hand. My family spent hours, we've probably spent years, playing games. And I even learned American literature and art history from games like Authors and Masterpiece. And I love them. Card collecting games, goal-oriented games, cooperative games, mystery-solving games, even silly party games. Pretty much if you're playing a game, I want in. Unless it's chess. Okay, look, I know how to play chess. My mom was pretty good about making sure we knew the basics of some basic games. Poker, spades, backgammon. She tried to teach us bridge, that didn't work. So I understand the mechanics, but I'm terrible at it. Anytime I sit down at a chessboard, I sit with the best of intentions to pay attention, not just to my own move, but also my opponent's, to think a few moves ahead, strategize how I'll capture their king while not losing my own, to know every step, to anticipate the eventualities, to see the whole board. I try, but it's hard. My brain doesn't work that way. I mean, I know the how, but I don't know how to risk my bishop if I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my queen, which I know is the most powerful. I mean, it's just hard sometimes in all risks to say yes when we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I do know what's going to happen in chess. I'm going to lose. You know what I mean? So how do we say yes if we don't know if we've considered all the options, assessed all the risks? And yet, risk is exactly what Jesus was taking in the text Francine read, in that moment when he decided they were going to celebrate Passover in Jerusalem. So, set the stage. You've got a man from a faithful Jewish family who's got this incredibly radical and inspirational message. Oh my God, love one another. Radical. He has gathered people all around him to learn and to help him preach his message and share these stories. He revels in what some call miracles, or he reveals in what some call miracles, the healing power of love and compassion and hope. He's teaching people how to care for one another, how to see each other as worthy of love, how to see everyone as worthy of dignity. But because he's on the outskirts of town telling the establishment, which is simultaneously church and state, that they are in crisis and this is a moral moment, and because this radical spiritual message is a radical political message too, his ministry is becoming a problem for the establishment, who live and work and rule in Jerusalem. So he's got all these pieces in play, a message and a call he can't deny, all of these people's lives who've been changed, all of these people who are following him, who are buying into this message of hope, a sense of destiny, a government breathing down his neck, an angry group of temple priests wanting to silence him. And he's probably wondering why he didn't just stay quiet back in Nazareth and do whatever he was doing before he met John the Baptist. Now, the gospel writers paint Jesus often as sort of this all-knowing, oh, he knows everything he's going to do. But I think what's more likely true, because he was human, we're all human, is that he arrived at this moment seeing all of this happening and knowing he can't stop bringing truth and love and healing to the people. So he moves the next piece on the board, maybe plays it out in his head a bit. In the pages before our reading picks up, we see Jesus calculating. He's still teaching, to be sure, and we are getting more of the political parables, like the workers in the vineyard who will get equal payment because God's love is available to all, a wonderful universalist message. Like the rich man who was told it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. We also get hints that Jesus is beginning to see the costs of his ministry, that he might be jailed or tortured or even die, and it might be hard for his followers. He sees the whole board, how moving one piece will cause another piece to move and another and another. He may not know exactly what's going to happen next, or what piece will react most aggressively, or what the surprise counter moves might be. He doesn't know exactly how, but he knows he must say yes and make a move. And in this case, it's saying, let's get out of the outskirts and celebrate Passover in Jerusalem. Now, on its own, that doesn't seem like such a radical thing, because at this time in history, major religious observances were just starting to happen in communities outside of the city. Most people were coming to the temple to make their sacrifices and celebrate these high holy days. But this was somehow different. For a group of people who had grown a ministry on the outskirts, and in a moment of occupation. And let us not forget that for centuries and maybe a couple millennia, the Israelites and the Judeans were often occupied, sometimes exiled. And so right now it's the Romans who are with them. And I will say too that some argue that the riding in on a donkey is a storytelling device by the person who wrote the Gospel of Matthew, a way to connect Jesus to a Jewish prophecy, the prophecy of Zechariah. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jesus was schooled enough to know of this prophecy and know that the iconic image of riding in on a donkey would make some people cheer and other people really uncomfortable. So he does, riding in with people in celebration, mobbing the streets and laying down palms like an ancient red carpet. I know we all see the pictures of people waving the palms. They were laying them on the ground and their cloaks and other ways to make the muddy road less muddy and to honor the entrance. Jesus is probably playing with the crowd a bit. If you know Jesus Christ Superstar, he's all into the Hosanna, hey, Hosanna, 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 right? But he's going in with purpose, and he doesn't know what for sure he's going to find because he's not been there for years. But he goes, and he had to start by saying yes to this risk. And that is what good people do when they face a decision. A measure of the risk, and sometimes say yes even though they don't know what's coming next. Now, I'll tell you that I have preached part of this sermon before, that first part. And I often use it as an introduction to talk to congregations about making difficult decisions about their governance, their mission. I used it a lot during the waning days of the lockdown in the pandemic. People making decisions to go back or not go back. What are they going to do? But I have encountered you as a people who are willing to take risks. You are people who say yes to the future. And that is really clear in the way you have gone forward with Elevate Cedarhurst to build a new entrance, to put in a passenger elevator, which speaks to your wanting to be more open and more accessible. It's amazing. All the things I have watched you do in the last 8 months tell me that you are a congregation who understands taking risks, doing something new, opening your doors with extravagant love and an incredible welcome. But there's still something on my mind, which is why you get part of what I have preached before and something new. Because I think we still have a risk worth taking. I mean, we have spent the last almost 5 months talking about the moral moment we are facing, and we've shared ways in which you are saying yes to the resistance, but we've also done a lot of work to ground ourselves and hold that grief and that anger. And I sit with a knot right here, and kind of a lump in my throat that tells me I haven't said enough and I haven't done enough. So this is me saying, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to do better. I want all of us to do better. I am taking a risk today, and I'm inviting you to take a risk because that is what good people do when they face a moral moment. That moment when we say, enough is enough, I cannot keep quiet. That moment when we say, there are people who cannot sing or will not sing, and I will sing for them. And we don't have to be perfect about it or know what the next step is. We have to say yes. We have to move a piece. So I take a lot of inspiration from Senator Cory Booker, who faced that moment and said to his staff and his colleagues in the Senate, I don't know what to do, but I have to do something. And he knew it wouldn't be perfect. And he admitted so about halfway through his 25-hour and 4-minute speech on the Senate floor on April 1st, which he hoped at least would draw attention to the crisis that we were in with information and details. And he said, I don't know, somewhere about halfway, he said, do better than me. He said, do better than we in this body, this Senate. We are flawed and failed people. Sure, it was just a speech. It was a stunt. But it was a Confederate monument-smashing stunt. Occasionally a lecture, sometimes a sermon. But at the moment, he said, yes, this is what I can do. And he took a 25-hour risk. And it was courageous. We're still talking about it 12 days later. We may be talking about it for a while, and I'll just say that I watched a clip of him. I don't remember who he was talking to. It might have been Rachel Maddow. And he was open, and he was just saying what the truth was, and he didn't care if he swore. And he's calling it out. He is singing. How could he keep from singing? It was courageous. Booker showed courage and told me, be freaking brave. As he said, what is needed now is less people sitting on the sidelines, less people being witnesses of American history, and more people determined to make it. We cannot be like the people of La Paz, cowed into silence. We must be the rooster, that proud gallito singing because he must. We cannot stay on the outskirts of the city afraid to do anything. As Booker said over and over and over again, this is a moral moment. And it is absolutely a religious moment for us. We are a religion whose theologies constantly teach us that our responsibility to our fellow humans is the inextricable consequence of Unitarian Universalism. And over, Unitarians and Universalists and Unitarians, Universalists, and Unitarian Universalists, because we were too, we have had the courage to answer the call. And so it is a religious moment for us as our faith holds dear the commitment to the democratic process, which we see being directly compromised. It is a religious moment for us as we remember that we have spent 200 years actively being called to put love at the center. We know this is true. And yes, I know there is so much that's wrong, that's keeping us paralyzed, witnessing the horror of this moment. We're facing trauma after trauma. And let's not forget that for some of us in this room, this is the first time we've really felt this kind of threat. And for others, especially for those who, because of our ugly history, and those who are probably here with us because of that history, it's all too familiar. But we must come together. As Booker reminds us, this is not a right versus left crisis. This is a right versus wrong crisis. We are called by our faith to meet the moment. All of us. We can't sit idly by because we think it doesn't affect us, or worse, that we can do nothing about it. We have to remember the example of Martin Niemöller, a devout Lutheran minister who supported Hitler in the early days of the 30s because he believed a strong leader would help solve Germany's problems. He didn't believe what the prophets of his time said about what was coming for the at-risk communities. By the time he woke up to the active crisis around him, he was being arrested and was held for 7 years at Dachau, watching the violence and destruction around him. It was there that he wrote the sentence that many congregations are very proud to hang on their walls. First, they came for the socialists, but I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Do you actually hear the call? I mean, it's right there. Our values are calling us. And as the Reverend Cheryl M. Walker says, we cannot let go of our values just because it might be dangerous. We must be as loud as the rooster. We must be willing to say yes and take the next step. We must. Now, for Jesus, the next step after entering Jerusalem was to go to the temple, where he found people were using it to make money. As Matthew 21 tells us, he drove out all who were selling and buying in the temple, and he overturned the tables of the money changer. He said, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of thieves." He didn't expect that. He took the risk. He went into the temple and he saw that and he acted on the moral moment. He said, yes, it may not have been perfect, but it was the next right thing. It was not the nice thing. It was the good moral thing. And so as Jesus approached the gates of Jerusalem on a donkey, those who were willing to say yes to all acknowledged the risks and the steps it takes by laying down the palms that affirm this path as the one worth taking. Palms that say yes to taking steps to be good, to do justice, to speak out, to love loudly. There is so much to do, y'all. There's so much to do. Good news is we don't have to do it alone. I mean, we can't. But as Unitarian minister Edward Everett Hale once said, "I am only one, but I am still one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something I can do." So what we can do is take that first step. And yes, I know many of you are already on that path. You've marched, you've written to representatives, you've donated money, you've been active with groups, and still the path is unclear. What's next? I'm going to ask Francine to pass out these palm fronds, and I want you to take one. And as you receive the frond, hold it carefully as you consider what you are going to say yes to next, what you can do next to answer the call of love, to meet this moral moment. You don't have to know how it's going to play out. You may not even know for sure how you're going to make it happen. And yeah, it may be imperfect. But know that it matters that we say yes. Once you're ready, I'll invite you to put the palm frond on the floor before you and put your feet on it. Stand as you are moved on the path we see laid before us. We'll take just a moment as you get your palm fronds and think about and consider what your yes is. Our faith tells us that we fight for justice and equity, so we must do what we can. We say yes. We say yes to our fight for the vulnerable and the outcast. We say yes to our fight for the progressive and the moderate and the conservative. We say yes to our fight for the teacher and the civil servant and the soldier and the veteran and the researcher and the healthcare worker. We say yes to our fight for those who are fortunate enough to be born here and those who seek to call this place home. We say yes to our fight for those facing food scarcity and housing scarcity. We say yes to our fight for the safety and protection of queer and trans folk. We say yes to our fight for the health of every single person, for the health of this very planet. We say yes to our fight for everyone and everything. We say yes to actively using our power to love the hell out of this world. We say yes to whatever is next. Let us, yes, yes, yes. So we are.